I gotta be like Saul Goodman out here. Like, I wouldn't pick one over the other just because I play with both Jörg and Peter.
Yuumi being an untargetable enchanter. I hate my life when I have to play against that.
They won one game. One game against Gam, bro. Hillary won 0 games.
We gathered 6 individuals from the League of Legends scene to discuss contentious topics surrounding League of Legends and League of Legends esports.
Hi, my name is Pika.
Hello, I'm Raz.
My name is Mayumi.
My name is CoreJJ.
My name is Emily Rand.
I'm Drew. I'm an Emerald player. I have been playing since 2016.
I'm a pro player. I've been playing League for 10 years.
I've been playing League of Legends since 2012.
Also known as World Champion.
I used to be a coach and caster for the LPL.
I was previously a professional player, and nowadays I'm a content creator for Team Liquid.
Welcome to All Chat. North America imports too much.
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit sad thing that if teams are bringing the random import from like LCK Academy or something, those guys are actually not bad in lane, in general. They're not losing the game in lane because their fundamental skill is like fairly high. Their low is very like high. So I think teams are taking more like convenience way instead of like gambling on the like NA talent. I think there must be some NA talent, but because they're not playing in a like more competitive solo queue environment, they are not ready for the LCS level unless they are the super rookie like Palafox. Like for example, Palafox, he was the best mid laner in the academy scene, and then even he was like didn't have an amazing start in the first LCS. Like growing the players are hard, very hard thing. I understand because like every year is changed, but team was like less patient, especially because of the BO1 as well.
I mean, I think this one's fairly straightforward. I think the 2 imports per team rule is not really bad per se, but I just feel like the way teams approach importing in general is just very poor. They don't really think as a long-term vision, okay, we're gonna bring this good player, and this good player is gonna help us develop like, you know, the system, the region, and whatnot. But I feel like most teams import to just get like look for a quick win, in which I feel like is really unhealthy and it actually harms the ecosystem where like these players come in, right? They take up a spot and then they leave after a year. So that experience could have been to a native player which is gonna stay in the region, right? With that experience, and that's gonna translate, you know, that's gonna trickle down. You know, I think with the way teams are approaching imports today, it's just unhealthy.
Yeah, I would even say also from a fan perspective too. Like if you were putting, let's say a player comes over for a year, and then like you get a lot of players, a lot of North American fans to care a lot about this guy, and then he leaves. All of that traction that you got with that fan base and all of that like love that you were able to harness in the audience just goes away. It may follow them to another league, but like it doesn't stay in the LCS.
So like, at least I would say, those are the imports that I'm fine with. Because I think, oh, so the scouting has picked up a player that's really talented, that wants to be here and is like doing content and everything, like really passionate about staying here for however long their career takes them. Thumbs up, that works for me. But the scouting where you're like, okay, so this team just picked up like a 10th place player from the LEC that everybody has no faith in. Like I think most of my concerns are on certain teams that have 0 scouting. Like they see one person or one team successfully, they get a player from LCK Challengers and like it turns into a Berserker and he's like so fucking good. And they're like, okay, we need to replicate that, but you've done no effort to research them. And that really sucks. And that makes it so like at least fans can't trust like the next import that's coming in that is really good at what they do, that is also like really interested in like staying and making a career in North America, because of other teams that are just like firing shots like every split.
And I feel that's really bad for the scene too, because part of the fan base, like they're players that play like amateurs or like in academy that wants to play in LCS and wants to pursue a career as a pro player and won't have the chance because the team is like importing people from outside that are not as good. But like, yeah, some people just like give up on this career because they think, oh, the team is just going to import someone better, so I'm just going to lose the spot.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is the scouting done both for players coming in and then also for players in the North American player base as a whole. Because the thing you can't ignore is that our solo queue is worse here, right? Like, I don't think anyone here would disagree with that statement, which means that if you're coming up in North American solo queue, you're not going to learn certain things as intuitively or as an initial response when you get to the same level in solo queue. Like, obviously, someone who reaches top rank in Korean Challenger is going to just generally know more about how the game is played than someone who reaches it here. But the thing that's been really frustrating for me to watch that ties into all of this is the lack of willingness to accept that that is the case and then actually give a player the grace and time to develop. You already can see several examples in the LCS currently of players who actually were given the time and have improved into really good players. I think Palafox is probably the one that people would point to the most because his initial LCS outing on FlyQuest was really bad. But I think it's really unfortunate that a lot of orgs don't actually spend the time to A, grow and develop their own native players, and B, also just do better scouting across the board, both in NA, and then if you're bringing a player in from South Korea, from Europe, from China, wherever.
The League of Legends community is more positive than people realize.
All right, I'm gonna do one of these where it's like, can I like squat by the like half sitting?
Yeah.
It's a yes or no. You can't be squatting.
Cause like, okay, so I'll explain, I guess. Okay. Cause I'll sit down, but like I don't necessarily agree with it. I think
I'll sit down too. I half agree.
I think as like a monolith, or when you go on community boards, you see a lot of complaining. And then that in turn snowballs even more complaining, because you'll see someone being like, man, I just played against like this champ and it sucked. And I'll be like, hey, I played against that champ in my solo queue game. It sucked. That was a terrible experience. I'm going to agree with this person. I think that happens a lot in like larger community forums. But I think sometimes when you get down to smaller pockets of people you play with, like the friends I play with or the friends I've met through League of Legends, that is a very positive experience. Like even if we are all raging in comms at the other team to each other, that's like a very fun experience to have, I guess, and comes with just playing a competitive video game. So that's why I kind of like half sat, because I think in smaller pockets, people can really find like community.
So the expectation from people outside of the League of Legends community is always like, oh, you play League, huh? like, oh, the most hateful community of all time. Like they'll list a bunch of things about it that's negative. But for me, like I'm a Twitch gremlin. So for me, it's like pretty oversaturated. There's a bunch of streamers right now on League, and a lot of them are positive. Like they just are not the most popular like public-facing figures, like Tyler One or Dom in some cases. Like I think a lot of the time it's pretty blanket. They'll say that statement about League, much like they'll say the statement about Valorant, or they'll make that statement about any shooting game. But when you're actually in the community, or when you are more attentive to a lot of the streamers, it's a lot more positive than you would expect.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm streaming, as a streamer, like I see it as a woman too. I see a very toxic side of the community, and I feel like people from outside the community see the community as a really toxic environment. But when I go and see my community or my fans in real life, and when I interact with them in events, for example, they're really nice. Like they're really kind people. They're not as me as you see them on the internet. Like I made a bunch of friends. Like I made my entire community around League, and I feel like there's a lot of kind people in there. So yeah, I half agree on that. But
yeah.
I would put a +1 to that too, just really quick. Like everyone I've met in person has been amazing.
Yeah, really nice, right?
I changed my mind because the question is like, I think toxic streamers are more famous. Like toxic comments are getting more upward. I feel like it makes everyone feels like people are every people are like this. Yeah. But I think the more people outside are very positive and then supportive to the even pro players. I think we see the best thing more harder. That's why I sit down again.
Okay, say why you did agree, please.
You want to go first?
Sure. when I think of the League community, I also think of like Twitter. And I think of so many times where, whether it's LCS-based or even like anything that Riot does, there's just such an overwhelming amount of like people pissed off in the comments and just being like, this is the worst decision ever. Is Riot blind? Like, no matter what they do. I think that's what goes to my head immediately. I'm like, there's toxicity, people are mad about stuff, people in the community I think really love to hate stuff, but I think you guys are right about the fact that like that is being overblown, and if we could see past that, we'd see like, maybe like the silent majority, right? Like the people who actually love the game and play it every day, but don't like just tweet like, played a game of League of Legends today and I realized I'm so happy with it. You know, like that's not gonna get much traction online. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I am agreeing with you guys, but I almost.
Should have said sooner, buddy.
Yeah, I know,
Okay,
of course. Yeah,
let me change your mind.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
please.
change your mind,
Please, sway
alright?
me, sway me.
I think when you talk about the League community as being toxic, right? You have to realize people who enjoy the game is not gonna, type on forums and like, talk shit about Riot, type like really angry messages. So I think for like almost all the community, it's always like the loud minority, right? And I'm thinking about the loud minority of League compared to like other communities. And when you do that comparison, I feel like it's a lot worse than you realize, because every time I go on Twitter, if it's like any dev making video, for example, Freak, right? Freak got like death threats. Yeah. He got so many death threats. Yeah. Like just any like random Riot employee like under like the Twitter, if you just read their Twitter comment, that is like the worst thing I have ever read. And I'm sure that applies to other community as well. But about you talk about the positive streamers, right? Yeah. I don't think they're the norm. Right? Obviously, there's gonna be positive streamers for every single game, right? People just wanna enjoy, maybe they're more casual. But I would say for League community, I think if you are more edgy, you're just gonna be more popular. To like the loud minority, I think I would say the reputation is like fairly like fair.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, talking about like, it's almost like the percentage of how many people are negative but loud, and then also like quiet but positive. And it's like, does it feel like it's more negative in general? That doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's over 50% negative, but maybe it's like 33 when other games are 15.
League of Legends will still be relevant in 10 years.
Yeah.
I have to circle you.
Man, I don't know if I agree with everyone or.
Right, there'll be a sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go, yeah.
Depending on region, I think League of Legends already in South Korea is just going to be something that is always relevant to the idea of esports as a whole. When you go to PC Bongs in South Korea, there are still people playing Brood War, which is my first competitive experience with esport, and the idea of Brood War as an esport is still relevant, even if the game itself is no longer played. And I already see League of Legends becoming something like that in both South Korea and China. And because those player bases are so large, I think it will always have some cultural relevancy globally. If you're asking me in North America, that's probably a dicier situation.
I mean, I'll come out and say I think League of Legends, like the IP is too good. For me, I always ask myself, is the game gonna go on a few more years? And it always has, so I'm like, okay, I'm just wrong a lot of the times. Like Dota's still been going strong, even though it's Dota 2. Counter-Strike's been going strong, even though now, I don't even know what the new one's called. I think it's just 2. Yeah, there it is. So like League of Legends 2, because there can't be this many champions. 10 years from now, we cannot be operating with 1,000 champions. So I think it's probably just gonna be a new, different look and a different release, maybe a little bit more different than Overwatch 2. Just looks like an update. But I do think that League of Legends will be relevant. It's too popular right now for it to not be.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is there's just no competition. When you think about shooters, they're usually like, their lifetime is usually shorter, except like CS, that's been a long time, which supports League's argument, right? CS has been alive for like 20, 30 years. Yeah. For League, there's just no competition that I can see coming, right? There's like Dota 2, and that's like pretty much it. That's not even a competition. Yeah. To be honest, it's just, just like another game. So I don't really see it, dying.
I agree with Emily. I feel like depending on the region, like the answer is different. But when I think like about CSGO, like we have, for example, back in my country in Brazil, we had a bunch of teams that won like championship 10 years ago, and it's still as popular as it was before. So I kind of implement that on League, and that's how I see League in 10 years.
Yeah, I think League of Legends as a game, it's just cannot be unfun. Like you're gonna be really fast, you're gonna be really strong, and then like killing everyone within 30 minutes. It's not like if you die, it's over because you can play one more game or something. I think those type of game, it's just fun for the many gamers. So
I'm an ARAM believer too. The game's a little too complicated or too like if you hate the game, it's like all right, just play ARAM with your friends.
Would it be happy if they implement ranked games on ARAM?
I hate ranked ARAM games. I think you got to keep this fun. The moment people start like overcomplicating it and turning it competitive, like guys, you've lost the sauce on this one.
Okay.
If you have some friends that are like really care about the compositions.
There's a lot anymore.
No?
What do you mean not anymore? Sometimes
I used to be like top 10 ARAM.
yeah, that's
Real.
In North America. When they had the MMR, I think they deleted that.
You were the sweaty ARAM player.
I went to play ARAM, and he said, "Oh, you're gonna mess up with my MMR. I don't want to play with you."
Oh!
Oh my god, that's amazing.
He's the ARAM devil.
You gotta punch the MMR.
So I want League of Legends to survive 10 more years. I want it to be like consistently awesome and reach new peaks. And I'm a hopeful person in general. That's why I almost sat down before I was called a sheep. But I do think like maybe even MOBAs as a genre for a game, I think the interest in that, specifically my brain is North America pilled, so I'm pretty like North America thinking, like people are less interested in that. Like it's harder to get into when you compare it to something like Valorant or a shooter. And if you ask me if Riot is going to be relevant in 10 years, I truly believe yes, because they've shown that they're willing to innovate and even make new titles and kind of jump on trends. And I'm sure that League of Legends will still be operable, but I don't know if it will be relevant, especially to the same extent that like it has been in the past. Because it's already been like over 10 years. And like we are doing, I think right now it feels kind of like we're in a dip, hopefully right before we pop right back out. But like the fact that we're already kind of feeling it, it seems like stamina is going a little low. Man, I don't need to be super negative here, but like, it just feels like there's less hope right now. And so I'm like, I'm not sure if this IP, very, very strong, if it's gonna be able to get like young people, new people who are like, whoa, there's 100 champions? Let me learn every ability and cooldown timers and all this stuff. Like maybe everyone nowadays just watching TikTok wants to be like, shoot, player, shoot, jump, shoot, player, you know?
Anytime there's a dip in literally any game, you will immediately see that one guy is like, dead game. Like, so there will be a sentiment that exists. Anytime I hear that sentiment, I was like, okay, let's look at Twitch. Like, what's the most streamed game on Twitch? Or what's like, generally it's still the most played game. So whenever I hear a sentiment on any game of like, is this a dead game? It's no. People are just surprised that it's going on for so long.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes me be like, will it go on for 10 more years and be as strong? Like World of Warcraft is not what it used to be, but it's still relevant. Like, I mean, it's still like a huge like MMORPG. And so, yeah, well.
Do you just convince yourself?
I keep doing this, I can't. No.
My concern about the League of Legends is like getting complicated, so it's getting harder and harder, like what StarCraft was. Like you get tired playing the game, and then like that's why ARAM is good, right? Do you think there's any case League of Legends is getting simpler? Like you get the dragon, you just only give you gold, like all the times, like World of Warcraft Classic. Like at some point, League of Legends get very simplified for the new players or something. Easy. If you get dragon, you get money. Wow.
Yeah, I would say that it's kind of happening. Like Min can experience this whenever like it's like, all right, jungle's getting a little too complicated. You can leash camps. Yeah, stop that. So at least they will see when a specific role is getting too complicated and they'll change that. But yeah, some of those elements are getting too tough.
I'd be interested to see if there is a League of Legends Classic that comes out, because there's so much nostalgia for like old League.
I mean, I think regardless of game, I think the IP, you argue is almost for sure going to be relevant in 10 years because I kind of lump TFT kind of under that, even though they're a kind of different game, right? But still League IP using the same champions and stuff, as well as Arcane 2 is coming out which is gonna have a really huge bump, right, for the league player base. And like, I think the dying part of the game is because it just experienced explosive growth, which felt like it's dying, right? I think from like during COVID as well as Arcane coming out, League got so much like new players that now it feels like it's kind of dying because it went up like, I'm sure they have data on this. It probably went up like say if it goes up 50% or 100%, right? And it drops 30%, you consider that a dip, but it already went up so much that, you know, compared to like 3-4 years ago, there's still way more players.
Bjergsen is the greatest LCS player of all time.
So you guys don't agree? So, have you guys seen My Hero Academia?
I have not.
I
but
saw
know
a few
about it.
episodes and I got bored.
Okay.
Boku no Hero, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that Bjergsen is like the ultimate, like really nice guy. He's kind of has this pristine vibe about him. Like when he left the LCS, like we all felt it, right? I think the argument is that Doublelift would be the GOAT, but I think like because Doublelift has also been like more edgy and kind of more of a, like a big character, I think they're different in my head, where when I think GOAT, I'm like, this guy represents the LCS. He's won so many times and he's always, when he goes to a team, he's like a huge part of why that team wins.
I mean, I'll go for it. I mean, Doublelift has been the GOAT of the region for a much longer period of time, and in international performances, I felt like he performed the best internationally of like North American players consistently. And also, I mean, if we're talking about how he carried himself, like he was like, had the greatest personality and encouraged an era of shit talking. So I think that was for me, I had him as the GOAT over Bjergsen.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's really close. Like, honestly, I wouldn't pick one over the other just because I play with both, you know, Bjerg and Peter. And I just feel like it's really close. And for me, I would just put both of them up there. I feel like it's hard to just put one over the other because they're obviously both very accomplished and they have the longevity to back it up. So, like, for me, I would just put both, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, both are really great players in for the NA, but I would say Doublelift is higher because there's a chance to, like, some people even argue who's the best mid laner in the ACS, like sometimes Jensen, sometimes Bjergsen. But if you go to the like ADC carry, there's only Doublelift. No other ADCs like can compare to him.
Well, some people argue sneaky.
It's too low time now.
But now
Yeah.
Core kind of said what I was going to say, which is like his longevity and kind of, I remember talking to him I believe it was 2019, before the 2019 World Championship. It was a little like trash talky, but he was also like, I'm waiting for that next great NA AD carry to come up and like beat me, right? Because every time I'm on the team, and you could argue every time until like his last outing in the LCS, he was pretty much the best AD carry in the LCS, right? And so because he was setting that standard, he's like, yeah, I'm just waiting for someone to come along domestically because otherwise I have to go to international events to really, really face people who can test me. He brought specifically Uzi, I think, because he really respected the way that Uzi like contested lane. It's like about longevity and also kind of to Core's point about who else was contending for him in that position. To me, I mean, he was just the face of the LCS for so long.
Yeah, as someone that coming like from outside, when I think about LCS, I think about Doublelift. And like, for example, I came from Brazil and he created a huge rivalry with BRTT. So he has a huge meme around that. So yeah, when I think about LCS, I think mainly like about Doublelift. I think about Bjergsen as well. So like they're really close to each other, but I would put Doublelift as the GOAT of LCS.
Hey everyone, shout out Alienware for the opportunity to ask this question. But my question is, do you think that LCS should move to the format that the LEC has been using for the last 2 years?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, it's a no from me.
Yeah, it's a firm no for me.
Okay. I trust Mark J. His decision. He didn't change the HCS format to the LEC format, so there must be the reason.
So for me, I like a lot of elements of the LEC's thing. I love the element of best of ones into best of threes, so you can weed out the teams that are not great, so then you get to watch the teams that you think are competitive playing in best of threes. I like all of that, but I don't like 3 splits. You'll get moments where a team that is young, like let's just say a team takes a chance on like young players, then they'll go through 3 weeks, bomb out, and then they end their split. And a lot of times now the fans and analysts and like even the ownership will take a conclusion out of 3 weeks of a split, which is really bad for if you're taking a risk. So then just really weird commentary will happen, and you'll see the team start winning at the end. It's like, oh, what will happen if you actually give them some time to run? So I generally don't hate that. I mean, I hate that.
Yeah. I think, I mean, as a follow-up to what I said about just scouting in general, I don't trust orgs to not continuously churn and dump through their players. Like, I think it's actually pretty adverse to player development, which previously has been something that I think the LEC has done a pretty good job in terms of bringing up their own players from the ERLs to the LEC stage and hopefully giving them time enough to grow and develop. I think you can kind of see that actually with VTO right now and the way that people are reacting to him and the fact that he's been allowed space to grow on a few different teams. I really want LCS to have a more best ofs than single games, because I do not like the single game / best of 1 format at all. But I also noticed a lot of people getting strong viewer fatigue and also not understanding or actively disagreeing with the championship point allocation, which I think was another really big problem coming out of the LEC format.
This might be like a baby brain take, but it's like there are 2 international events. So there should be 2 splits. Like my head's like, what are we working towards? MSI. What are we working towards? Worlds. And maybe that's not a good thing because it puts so much pressure on the international stage that like NA may feel bad where you're like, this happens all the time, but like we're first seed, we're doing well, and we're going to the thing that this is all leading up to, and we lose immediately. And like that kind of, you lose momentum there. But still, I just feel like there's something special about being like, this split is for MSI. This split is for Worlds. It feels good to go through it. I think adding a 3rd just crowds it up.
Yeah, as a viewer, like, I had to study a lot how the split works because I couldn't understand. And yeah, I feel like 3 splits is a lot, and I already had 2, like, for the same reasons as you. But I also don't like the break that LCS has right now. There's like too long, like before I think was 2 weeks, right? And now it's 3 weeks because they had to prioritize the Valorant championship or something like that. So yeah, I understand like both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think another thing is just dilutes the value of winning a split. Right before it was 2, now it's 3. So I think it's just in general just makes it less hype for a winner because you got 3 splits to go for. And I don't really think, at least the feeling I got is like people don't really care that much about winning Europe as much as before. Maybe it's because like G2 is just winning most of it. Could be a reason, but I don't really get that or feel that excitement compared to before. That's actually a really good thing to point out because like imagine every other region generally will have like 2 major championships within your region that you're playing for. And then in LEC you have 4. Because it's not only just winter, spring, and summer, now you're doing the actual season finals. So like imagine being an older player being like, wait, I won this championship, I like really played hard, like, and now you have people who are playing for 4. And if we're saying that spring split doesn't matter, winter split, I don't know, man. No, it doesn't really feel like...
Winter, spring, and summer split don't matter. It's just the championship.
There it is. So that's the devaluing part, I think, is a big one too.
Yeah.
Riot only makes champions that are fun to play, not to play against.
Oh.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, me too. I'm thinking what do you think about this one?
I guess, yeah. No way. No way. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go first. I mean, I'm not a game designer, so this could just be easily proven wrong by a game designer getting into the YouTube comments or the thread of this and just being like, wrong. But I think whenever even when I'm playing a champ, I don't necessarily think of the degree of difficulty or how unfun something is unless I'm getting blown up or like absolutely dumpstered. Sometimes it's matchup based or skill based, like I just mess up. And if I am a game designer, I actually think I would focus more on how does it feel to play something? Like, how does it feel to actually execute something that is incredibly difficult combination or something like that in a kit? Because that feeling is amazing. And I think that would be kind of the feeling I would want to chase for players to have. And then obviously the flip side is, I guess you do have to keep in mind, again, if something is so unfun to play against, then people are going to have automatically a negative opinion of it.
Yeah, I think some of the champions that come to mind that I've had the most fun with, and then I immediately go on the opposite side, was like when Necalli got reworked, and she can just put her Shroud down and just ignore turret shots, basically, and kind of go back into Shroud constantly. Or the concept of Yuumi being an untargetable enchanter, or K'Sante being probably the most fun tank to play, but then I guess multiple times I'm in the opposite side. I hate my life when I have to play against that. And it feels like there has to be multiple nerfs again and again to put them in line. And so I think they care a lot about the kit being unique and fun to play, and then not so much on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, at least how I see it, I feel like Riot's priority is to design a champion that captures like a demographic. And not necessarily, oh, how is this champion gonna interact with like, our roster of champions before, right? Like for example, Yuumi. They want something that's easy for new support players to play. They want Seraphine, like another mage, right? Support that is easy to play. Yone for Yasuo players, right? K'Sante as a tank that is also a bruiser. So I feel like their priority is just designing champs that are fun to play and fills a niche, and not necessarily putting balance into like their thought and as like a priority.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's that important to try to design champions that are really fun to play against. Sure, it might not be fun to play against a champ, but then like you get to play your own champ. Like you get to kind of have your own fun thing to do. And then like you can think about team comps and like, oh, we can run this team comp, this will be fun. I'm excited like to see how my champ works with the rest of the champs. Fun, what could be cool, what they can add to the game, and then it'll just kind of fall into place.
Yeah, they have to focus on that because they have to focus on people wanting to play the game. If they want to stop playing the game because you think, oh, it's not cool to play this game anymore, they'll stop like giving money to play the game. So like, I think they have to prioritize that. So yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, people don't want to play versus champion when the champion is like too OP, right? Mm-hmm. Like for example, Jerry. If Jerry is like 1v9ing every game, like he's too strong, you cannot win lane, but you get out scared. It's moving too fast. It's like, sure, yeah, you're having fun playing the Jerry, but sometimes it's so annoying to play versus it because you feel like there's no counterplay. Making a champion fun is very important. Maybe balancing after. I don't know.
Yeah.
2023 Team Liquid Hondo was a bigger failure internationally than 2020 TSM.
Wait, what did 2023 TL did again? I forgot.
Oh, 2023?
Yeah, what did you?
happened.
Oh, last year.
Yeah.
Oh, last year.
We almost won against T1.
There it
and
is.
Then,
Exactly.
Versus the 9-man sleep.
I mean, they're both pretty bad.
That can't be true.
I mean, that was pretty. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie.
One person who can answer
I can't. I don't care.
Explain yourself.
Okay, so first of all, right? First of all, I want to preface by saying the format has changed for Worlds from 2020 going 2023, right? So the format in 2023 is Swiss, which means that the more you're losing, the worse teams you're going to be playing against most of the time. I think that is the goal, at least, right? Yeah. But in 2020, you are playing against the same three teams, and if you get a bad draw, you're just out, right? You're just out. So I would say they're both pretty bad. I'm not gonna say like that was good, but I just want to say that the 2020 TSM did not lose to a minor region, which kind of puts it over. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like in the Swiss format, it's easier to win, right? Did they win? Did you guys win?
Yeah, we won one game.
Who was it against?
GAM. So we lost the last game, but it was like 1-2.
Oh, it was BO3, but then you guys lost. So it doesn't count. So they still lost every game, and they lost to a minor region. So I want to argue that is worse than losing to what? Fnatic almost beat TES, right?
That is true.
Fnatic almost beat TES. They almost got to the semis. We also played against LGD.
Yeah.
They kind of sucked. And Gen G, I forgot what happened to Gen G, but like that's enough, right? That's enough. We didn't lose to a tier 2 region.
That was a pretty hard.
Right? Get on this. Get on this.
You convinced
Get
me,
on this.
Paul.
You convinced me. Like I need to preface like they're both pretty bad, but like someone's got to be worse.
Okay.
You know, someone's got to be worse.
I don't disagree with your argument, but the thing is the expectations, or at least my expectations as an LCS analyst, no offense, Core, of Team Liquid Honda at 2023 Worlds were not super high. Like when you guys almost knocked off T1 in that game, I was like, huh, okay. Like they threw in the end, but like better than expected in terms of execution, right? They had a really rough spring and then kind of turned it on in summer. My expectations for 2020 TSM in terms of performance were higher. Yeah. And they went winless. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like you have to consider the competition, though.
Yeah,
the competition.
No, that's the thing.
If LeBron loses to some middle schoolers,
I agree with the competition.
That's crazy. That's crazy, right? Because they're the competitions.
We got 0-3, which means like 15th place and then 16th place, like last 2 place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, TSM made a 0-6 against like not the first seed team, right? So which is like
was first seed.
No, you were first seed.
We were first seed.
So you were the first seed.
But like we all know seeding doesn't really. We all know seeding doesn't matter. Okay, we all know.
If you made
doesn't matter.
If you made a 0-6 in the group stage, which is technically like a last place again, I don't think there's the other team made a 0-6 in that world.
I don't remember honestly. Maybe.
Will a disagreeer sit down? Yeah.
I just think it's basic math, you know, like 0 wins against
T1 got 0 wins too, you know, like.
No, but they won one game. One game against GAM, bro.
One game. I mean, we could beat GAM too if we play against GAM.
Yeah, but you literally won 0 games, so that's basic math for me.
I won 1 game, okay? Like, hold on. Let's just say, okay, guys?
Then we won against T1 too.
No. I won 1 game. TSM did not win 1. I won that game. I won.
I'll give you that.
Right? I won. Okay? I won.
I didn't see a victory screen.
Okay. It wasn't a victory score in my eyes.
It made me be like, please get this man on different teams.
Then I think expectation is very different because especially the Golden Guardians lost to the BDS like 0-3. I think expectation on the NA team were very low. And then the thing is, in 2020, the other NA team did quite better than what TSM did.
I mean, NRGBGs do. Pretty good.
Pretty
good.
Our first seed in 2023 beat.
Yeah, but we're not about you know like the performances, you know. I mean, you guys are just putting me down. Like I don't want to keep going. You guys are just putting me down.
And they lost to T1, who won the competition.
Yeah. I would also say like it feels like 2020 TSM was more of like an all-star type feeling roster, and so I think even just like Doublelift, Spica, Bjergsen on this team. It's 2020. We're feeling like, oh my God, maybe if anyone can do it, it's them. First seed, let's go. And then you have 2023 Team Liquid Honda, where I think it's more like you've got Jan, who is newer, and then you have APA, who like barely played any games really. Like that was just the fact that I remember in the T1 game, he was like matching Faker pretty well, and everyone was like, oh my God, this guy is a genius. Like this is gonna be insane.
Yeah, and Pyosik had some sick kicks too.
Yeah, right. Pyosik played extremely well. But I think because that set up such an expectation, it's like the expectation of 1 game in Worlds versus the expectation of like the entire split leading up for TSM. And I think because they both fell pretty hard, the fact that it was a longer expectation period for TSM, that's why it's more of a disappointment.
I like the case that you were making, Speaker.
I mean, like, Raz, you with me or no? That's all I need to know. You with me or no?
Sadly, at the end, I wasn't.
All right, I'll remember this. I'll remember this.
Thank you for watching. Thanks to the guest. And thank you, Alienware.